Hi, I'm Saida Garrett, co-writer of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mr. Mark Tara.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, my last interview from the 49th edition of the Toronto International Film Festival, with a spotlight on the new gay German dramedy, Sad Jokes. That and more in episode 431, so stay tuned. The Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hello, my name is Conchita.
And I'm Barbecue.
And my name is Hardcora.
And we are the Beat Girls.
You're listening to
Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Well, hello and welcome to a brand new journey through Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I'm your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host, Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT-FM in Toronto and now proudly in syndication across Canada from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada in Newfoundland, Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening. Together we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, as well as being recognized as a #1 Canadian LGBT podcast. So today, my on-location interview with award-winning gay actor and filmmaker Fabian Stumm. Together we chat about his 2024 award-winning gay German dramedy that he wrote and directs, Sad Jokes. A film about Joseph, a gay filmmaker and director who is co-parenting with his best friend, Sonia, and is forced to adapt to the demands of being his son's primary caregiver after Sonia, his best friend and co-parent, is hospitalized for depression. We'll find out just what inspired Sad Jokes and more. Plus an hour or two, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house, and on this episode, I'm featuring some classic 80s, some queer electronic, and more. All that lies ahead as we start Journey 431 through Rainbow Country. Our first stop, the Rainbow Country Bookstore. Today, begin Transmission, the trans allegories of the Matrix, tracking one person's transition journey from Thomas Anderson to Neo to Trinity. Award-winning creator Tilly Bridges reads from their latest book, The Trans Allegories of the Matrix.
The Matrix is a confirmed and intentional trans allegory, written and directed by two transgender sisters, Lily and Lana Wachowski. They weren't out as trans when the first 3 movies or the Animatrix were made, but publicly came out as trans before the 4th movie. This changes the context for some of the films, which we'll discuss along the way. I want to remind you that these movies are fantastic humans versus machines sci-fi movies, and that the first absolutely revolutionized action movies and special effects, and there's also entire religious and philosophical metaphors to explore. All of those things are well worth discussing. The movies are so dense and have so many layers, I'm in awe as a writer. But I'm only going to talk about the trans allegories. Please don't take that as an indication I don't think those other things exist or aren't worth discussing. It's just that these allegories, are so densely packed with detail about the trans experience that it's going to take this entire book to explain them. Note that the very name, matrix, means a set of rules and procedures that define how something works. The society we all live in is our matrix, and yes, it does have you, well, many of you. It's the cisgender binary we're all forced into at birth without our consent. It restricts us and harms us in all sorts of ways, which these movies will show you time and again. Neo's our lead, and The Matrix is about his journey in coming to terms with the fact that he's transgender. Reloaded is about all the ways society comes for you once you're out as trans, and wondering if we would have transitioned if we knew how hard life would become. Revolutions is about dealing with our own internalized transphobia and where we might be able to go in the future, or where we hope society might go. Resurrections is about detransitioning and retransitioning, and the co-opting and erasure of trans voices. But we have to go in order for everything to make sense. Neo always presents as male in the movies, of course, but remember this is allegory, and the first movie was also made in 1999. Here we are over 20 years later, and we still don't have a transgender sci-fi action movie lead. We can't hold that against them. The surface level story is about Neo accepting that he's the one, and there will be much more on that later, but his journey is a trans one. His chosen name, Neo, literally means new. His dead name is Thomas Anderson. Thomas means twin, and Anderson means son of Andrew, and Andrew means manly or masculine. This means his name roughly translates to twin of the manly or masculine. This is your very first indicator of just how intentional these allegories are. You don't accidentally pick a name that means twin of the masculine for a trans allegory. And even if you somehow did, if that was the only evidence, then sure, maybe it's a coincidence. But it's only the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. Morpheus, in mythology, is the god of dreams. In The Matrix, Morpheus is Neo's superego and subconscious, and knows of his dream to be his true self. He knows the truth about Neo and spends every movie trying to help him accept it. Cypher is Neo's id and his doubt. A cipher is literally a secret, a code that hides the truth. It plagues Neo, eating at him. His id is so sure that he's in fact not trans and would be all too happy to just never think about it again. Neo's doubt is later personified by Link and then Bugs, but those are very different kinds of doubt that we'll discuss when those characters appear. Trinity is Neo's self-actualization, the person he wishes to be. Her name alone tells you she's Neo, 1, the ego, Morpheus, 2, the superego, and Cypher, 3, the id, all rolled into one. Trinity's in balance, in harmony, a whole person. Also note, she is a woman. The other 3 are men. Neo has to reconcile these supposedly male aspects of himself if he ever wants to attain self-actualization. Note how similar Neo and Trinity look, even down to their hair. None of that's by accident. Everything in a movie is a choice. And not only does this also hold through all 4 movies, I submit to you it is the entire point of all 4 movies. They tell the journey of one person, from Thomas Anderson to Trinity. Agent Smith begins as the personification of society and the passive transphobia it exhibits by designing a system, the cisgender binary, that does not even account for the existence of transgender people. Over the course of the first movie and then through the sequels, he comes to represent active transphobia, the parts of society that acknowledge trans existence, only so they can then attack it and try to make it impossible for us to exist within it. Other important things to know before we start. The Oracle is Neo's heart, later replaced by Bugs. Tank is the trans community, later replaced by Zion and then Io. Locke is Neo's fear. Niobe is Neo's confidence, and the color red is vital to understanding all 4 movies, wherein it stands for unequivocal truth. Know that it stands for truth now, and the explanation for why that is will come early in discussing the first movie. Blue stands for doubt, and yellow for fear. Always. The mixture of these colors is also used to convey more complex things. Purple shows you there's truth and doubt. Orange shows you there's truth and fear. The green overcast of the original trilogy shows you the world the cisgender binary matrix has created is based in fear and doubt. Yellow plus blue equals green. All agents, police, and security guards across all movies are cis white men. This is also intentional. It's showing you who benefits from the false cisgender binary, who set it up, and who extracts power from it to keep themselves at the top. This is also why the architect and the analyst are cis white men. These are the bedrock of the allegories. The foundation of everything else is built on and used to say all that the Wachowskis have to say. The good news is these are explained to you through the movies themselves. We're going to go through them all in order, not exactly frame by frame, but it might as well be for as much as these movies have to say. To truly understand the allegories, you'll need to go in order and read them in the order written, in the order of the movie's release. Jumping ahead will only lead to confusion, so I don't recommend it. But technically you can if you want to. I mean, I'm not the boss of you. I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
In the 60s, before the internet, to find each other, queer people needed to actually get together in real space and real time. Since most places didn't tolerate our kind, depending on where you were, your options could be limited. Large cities might have a few specialized commercial spaces, but in the absence of those, it was basically public washrooms, parks, or house parties. They all had their downsides. Commercial spaces required you to spend money, and that's one of the reasons why they were mostly for men. Even in places as big as Toronto, there was seldom more than one lesbian bar at a time. Lesbians earned about 60% of the male wage and probably had more dependents. The economy just wasn't there. The old adage was, gay men go to restaurants, lesbians hold potlucks. Washrooms and parks were also pretty much boys only and could be dangerous, plus parks in the Canadian winter, not so good. You could freeze your willy off. House parties, you needed to know somebody, or know somebody who knew somebody, and so on, and be invited. In terms of commercial life, Montreal had led the pack, developing a Sin City reputation during Prohibition in the US in the 1930s. And where there's sin, there's always a place for us. Toronto the Good and Vancouver took a bit longer, but in 1974, Toronto had enough anonymity and a critical mass to produce a small commercial scene. At first, it was mostly straight bars where we were tolerated in a corner as long as we behaved. Next came a few straight-owned venues that served gay clientele. By the mid-70s, a new class of gay entrepreneurs emerged and started to open up on Church Street where rents were cheaper. But not everybody lived in Toronto or Montreal. In smaller centres, where businesses couldn't meet community needs, the lesbian and gay liberation movement of the 70s came up with a new model. Defy economics and do it for ourselves. We might not have a lot of capital, but we did have free labour. For example, the Lesbian Organization of Toronto established a non-profit community centre in a ramshackle old Victorian house in 1977. It held dances and brunches and drop-ins and provided meeting spaces and a coffee house and hosted a phone line for a whole generation of women. Loot, as it was known, was following a strategy already developed elsewhere. In Saskatoon, the Zodiac Friendship Society opened its community centre in 1973. Edmonton and Calgary soon followed suit. HALO, the Homophile Association of London, Ontario, started in 1974, and the Halifax Gay Alliance for Equality first began running dances in the Turret in 1976, and later turned that into a community centre. By the end of the decade, there was a network of lesbian and gay groups providing community spaces in dozens of medium-sized centres across Canada, volunteer-run and community-controlled. This is Tim McCaskill, a gay liberation dinosaur from another planet and author of Queer Progress.
Up next, sad jokes.
Hi, this is Michael Anthony Alago, music executive, photographer, author, and you are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Fabian Stum?
That's it.
Am I saying it correctly?
Yes, perfect.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I am well, thank you for
Good.
asking. We are here at the 49th edition of the Toronto International Film Festival. You have a feature here called Sad Jokes.
Yes, that's right.
I'm asking everyone this first question. How is TIFF treating you? How has your experience been so far?
So far, it's been lovely. Everyone is super nice. It's been...
That's about to change.
Is it? Oh my goodness, don't scare me. Okay. Well, no, it's really nice. I've been so excited to come here, and it's been such a privilege to be invited, and now it's really, everyone is super lovely and warm and welcoming, and so far, only nice people to talk to.
Yes, yes. Okay, what did one strawberry say to the other strawberry?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
If you weren't so fresh, we wouldn't be in this jam.
That's very cute.
Okay, so...
That's right up my alley, actually.
Okay. So, your film is called Sad Jokes, and the very beginning of it almost starts off a bit like a documentary.
That's right, yeah.
Where people are telling jokes, and it's very engaging, very unexpected.
Yes.
Talk to me about the story that you're telling in Sad Jokes.
The general story?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sad Jokes is a film about a filmmaker, Joseph. He's a gay man, and he has a child with his best friend. They're not a couple, they're just best friends. And while he is trying to work on a new feature film, he wants to make a comedy. He has to juggle his private life because the mother of his child is struggling with depression. So he has to take care of the friend, take care of his kid, and also find ways to maintain his creative endeavors. And it's a film that's, like the title, it's sad and it's silly and hopefully funny and hopeful in the end, I guess. I hope.
You wrote this. You act in this.
Yeah.
You produced this.
Yes.
You directed this.
Yes.
Okay, the story that you're telling, what inspired the story that you're telling in Sad Jokes?
Well, I wrote the screenplay while I was touring with my feature debut as a director last year, and so while I was screening that at festivals, I weirdly realized that it calmed me down when I wrote down ideas and sketches for scenes, just about stuff that was happening to me, and I felt more comfortable doing that. And then from that, I developed a story, and so. Yeah, so the film is kind of made up of these little vignettes, that are put together and that create a storyline. So, yeah, and in my own personal life, I'm not a biological father, but with my best friend, we raised 2 kids together. So it's kind of a friendship-based parenthood, I would say.
Is the story that you're telling in Sad Jokes, is it somewhat biographical then?
Well, there are autobiographical elements, I would say, and I use those as kind of like springboards into fiction. For example, like I said, the kid that I raised with my good friend, she's not suffering from depression, so that is an invention. But a lot of those things, like I am a filmmaker, I'm a gay filmmaker. I was working on my second film. This is my second film. In the film, the character that I play, he's working on his second film. I had no producer telling me, this is not funny, so this is all made up. But I guess it's kind of a way of, addressing your fears, or the worst case scenario. What would happen if you write a script and no one thinks it's funny? If you write a comedy and no one laughs, it's probably the worst thing that could happen to a filmmaker. So it's just a way of confronting myself, I guess, with things that might happen. Yeah.
A random question. Have you ever had your finger stuck in a hole?
When I think I must have been 10 years old, I was in a part of a choir, a children's choir, and we recorded a CD with Christmas songs. And in the break, we went into the canteen, and I wanted to get a Coca-Cola can out of what's the word?
Vending machine?
A vending machine, yeah. And I got my finger stuck. And that's where I got that idea from. It didn't break, like it wasn't a big deal, And then last year, I actually did get my finger. I broke my finger while playing with my dog. So these 2 elements I kind of put together, and because I had to do the whole promo for my last film with a big bandage around my finger, a bit like in the film. And it seemed so stupid and silly. And at the same time, I was like doing photo shoots and getting awards. And then I had this bandage all the time. And I thought that's kind of a nice image for someone stuck between two worlds.
There's a scene in the film with you and a vending machine,
yes.
and the two of you go to war, and you lose.
I lose.
And
yes.
it's hilarious.
Oh,
so that's
nice
that's where that came from.
Yes, that's where that came from. And then I thought, what if you put those ideas together and really, pump up the comedic volume and have a bit of a physical comedy moment. A bit of an old school comedy moment.
You are a multi-award-winning filmmaker. You are an actor, a writer, director, a producer. You're also part of the LGBT community.
Yes.
Do you think whether this is something that's conscious or unconscious, and if it's subconscious, then you wouldn't necessarily know, but do you think that you're making art, you're making films through a queer lens?
I definitely think so, because, I am a queer man, so that makes me a queer filmmaker. And I think, what is important for me is to tell queer stories, but not, put my finger on it exactly, but more, I'm really a big believer in showing things rather than, explaining them and talking about them. And that's why also in the film, the whole setup about these two friends raising a kid together is not really explained. It's more, you just witnessed it. Yeah, it just is. It's a given, And I do think, because obviously, there's still a long way to go. But I do think it can be nice in art, especially to show something as sort of a utopia, like, show people this is how it could be. So they have something to aspire to, maybe. For me, that always worked. When I was a younger guy, a kid even, I drew a lot of inspiration from art, from films especially, where I would see life presented in a certain way that was maybe different from my own experience, but that, opened up a window to me of what is possible.
In Sad Jokes, you played Joseph, and Joseph is a filmmaker. He's a father. He's gay. He's getting back into the gay dating scene.
Yes.
Because this is a gay story, a queer story, people that are part of the LGBT community in this film. When you were first doing this film, maybe getting funding, in that process, did you ever run into any resistance where people telling you, like, don't tell this story or change this character or don't make it so gay or whatever? Did you ever run into any resistance to tell the story?
I wouldn't say resistance about the gay character of the film, but more about the general idea of telling a story that's close to it. Like, it is fiction, but it is close to my life, like I said. And then I did have some people being a little bit cautious about, writing something, directing something, and starring in it. That's obviously quite an endeavor and quite a lot of work. So it was more based on that people would say, it can be like before they saw the film and they just read the script. And I get that, to be honest. There were a few people who said, well, it can be pretty in your face if it's not done in a subtle, warm way. It can be really a lot if someone wears all these hats, It can be a little bit vain, maybe. So that was something that people were attentive about. But I think now, seeing the film, I think they get that it's not... Also because the character I play is rather like an observer. He's pretty passive, I think. So the things that happen around him, those are the things that drive the story. So I think when people see it now, they realize it wasn't about making it all about myself, Yeah.
Did you always want to be a filmmaker?
Well, I always wanted to be an actor. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer, and then I fell in love with acting, and then I became an actor, and I've been working for over 20 years as an actor, and I think the writing part was always in me, but it felt very intimate. I felt weirdly more comfortable getting on stage and in front of a camera and acting out, things than showing people what I had written. It weirdly felt more intimate. And then when the pandemic hit, I remember that was the moment when because a lot of, acting gigs fell through. Obviously, I was supposed to do a theater play and it didn't happen. Stuff like that. Films got cancelled. And then I started to get back into writing. And I found a new way of, expressing myself. And now now it's hard for me. Now I call myself a filmmaker because that compensates, writing, directing, acting, everything. And so now there's no looking back, no.
So, wearing all those hats then, where do you feel most comfortable? Writing, directing, producing, acting?
I love it all equally. I think if I would have to pick one thing, I think it would be writing right now, because I think that's really where a film starts. You know, if you have a good script, then you can really, I mean, you can also mess up a good script, but if the core is interesting and right and unique and honest, then I do think that you have a long way behind you already. So I think it's harder to direct a bad script or to act in a bad script. I've had that happen also as an actor. So right now the writing part is something that really interests me mostly, I think, if I had to choose.
I like to ask this question, especially to filmmakers that are part of the LGBT community. And it's simply this, like, who should be telling whose story? And there are a lot of, well, there have been a lot of roles, LGBT roles, where, you know, straight actors have played those characters over the last handful of years, you know, because of social media. Some actors, famous actors, have been getting pushback for, you know, playing certain roles. For yourself, as a filmmaker, an award-winning filmmaker, someone who is gay, where do you stand on that in terms of who should be telling whose story? Like, should it just be the best person who auditions, or whatever the situation is, should play that character? Where do you come down on this?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting issue. I think I'm a big believer in allies. I think as long as an actor or an actress is an ally and feels and makes me feel that they're interested and they're in on the whole struggle and the whole process and the whole fight, basically, then I'm open to that. But generally, I do feel it's about that there are not enough queer roles in general, and I think if you would change that, like if you go back to the core and change where it starts, like tell more diverse stories, create more characters to play for more diverse people, then I would say I'm really open to that. I think I mean I'm an actor and I want to, I don't want to only play queer roles, right? Like I also want to be
so when you were acting for 20 years, were you doing straight roles? Were you doing...
I'm still working as an actor most of the time. So yeah, and mostly I have to say, I remember I don't know, I was always very open about my sexuality, but I was getting a lot of straight roles. I don't know why that is. I'm very tall, I'm kind of dark. I don't know why that was. And now it's a little bit ironic. I talked to my agent about this the other day, actually, because it's a little bit ironic that now, like I've been a working actor for a while, but I've not been, famous or known, outside of the business so much. I've always had work, but I wasn't a name. And now now that I started directing and starring in my own movies, and both of the characters I played there were straight, queer characters, now the whole attention has risen and really completely shifted and changed. And it's an interesting thought for me to say, the moment I really went back to myself and was very close to myself and showed who I really was, that's when people started to pay attention. So I think there's something to think about in that, It's about authenticity, I guess.
So then moving forward, specifically for acting for you, do you think you will seek out more queer roles then? Or you're just going to take what comes your way?
Well, I'm interested in good parts, as long as they're interesting. And I don't want to be so calculated, I feel like it's a lot about the director also, the kind of world they want to create, I want to tell. And with me, I really, I have 4 projects lined up that I'm working on as a director and a writer, and I'm going to be, some of them will have me in a lead role, some won't, maybe in a supporting role. And I guess it's like 50-50, Some are gay stories, some are, like in the next film I'm about to direct next year, in early next year, it will be a story about 2 women in their late 50s who are a couple. So this is the queer part of the story, the main part, and I will have a supporting role and I will have a straight role for a change. So, but still I'm very obviously focused on the queer side of the story.
Here's my last question for you, and it's simply this: what do you hope audiences come away with? They take away from your films, from your work?
I read in a review the other day that someone said about the film that it feels like a warm embrace after you've been crying, and that moved me so much because to have someone say something like that about your work, and of course you always hope that people will receive it well, but that would be. I mean, I love that image. I think it is a film that tries to be quite open about the human experience and about the pain that we all experience and also the joy. And I hope that they feel that they can connect with the film in one way or the other, and that it's fine to be embarrassed about yourself and about life and to be in over your head, but still, as long as you have people around you that that you can connect with and guide you through, you'll be fine.
And it's okay to lose to a vending machine.
It's also okay. Yeah, that's true.
Fabian Stum, thank you so much for your time. Well said, well done, well filmed,
Thank you.
well
Thank
made.
you so much.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.
For more information on award-winning filmmaker Fabian Stum's sad jokes, simply visit postofilm.com.
Hi, I'm Garrett Conley, author of Boy Erased, a memoir. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Hi, I'm Jamie B. of TG CD Style Toronto, and I'm a professional feminization makeup artist and stylist providing male-to-female transformations and mentoring to those who identify as a cross-dresser or a trans woman. I first heard of Rainbow Country and Mark Tara in trying to find a radio station that specifically caters to the LGBT community, and I'm so grateful I found this station. It's crucial having a platform like Rainbow Country that welcomes all aspects of the queer community, including allies like myself and what I do. It casts a spotlight on specific needs and interests of human beings, ensuring that people from all walks of life are being validated. It's a real privilege to be able to work with cross-dressers and trans women by helping them align themselves with their feminine energy through the glorious feminization process. So, I want to thank Rainbow Country and Mark Tara for providing this platform for all of us.
In June 2014, my team and I covered North America's first World Pride that happened right here in Toronto. The footage that we captured recently got turned into a documentary that's out right now. A Different Kind of Love is the name of the film and available on Out TV and Out TV Proud, which is also available on Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video, and other streaming platforms. I hope you'll take a little time to check it out. A Different Kind of Love. So in June this year, I won the Out Loud Best in LGBT Radio Programming from the NCRA, the National Community Radio Association. I received that award for my episode on Operation Soap, the bathhouse raids that took place in Toronto, February 5th, 1981. So if you think what I'm doing here on Rainbow Country, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond, heard on broadcast radio, streaming, as well as available as an edited podcast. If you think what I'm doing here is worthwhile, I hope you'll consider making a donation to this very outlet you are tuned to. If you happen to be listening to the edited podcast, I hope you'll consider making a donation to an outlet that does carry Rainbow Country. How can you do that? Simple. Simply head over to marktara.ca, new URL, marktara.ca, and hit the donations banner, because that's where you'll find all the outlets that carry Rainbow Country. a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. Have your voice, have your support be heard.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station, specifically for our issues, to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us. And of course our artists and the things that we do globally and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
Up next, I chat with award-winning filmmaker Beck Pico about their award-winning short film, Are You Scared to Be Yourself Because You Think You Might Fail?
Hi there, I'm Bennett Singer, a documentary filmmaker and the co-director of the new film Cured. You are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Are you okay? I'm like really nervous. Are you nervous?
No. You smell crazy. Oh my god. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, really weird. Oh, it's so weird. I had no idea what I was going to look like.
What do you think I was going to look like?
Just like no boobs. You'll be back tomorrow?
I want to go home. Just for like a few days.
A few days? I can't do nothing with my T-Rex arms.
You know who really wants to help? Your mom wants to help.
Beck Pico, hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am good. We are here on location during TIFF 2024. It's the 49th edition of the Toronto International Film Festival. You have a film that's part of the festival, a short. First of all, how has your TIFF experience been so far?
So far, it's been great. I mean, I've only seen 3 films, but because I'm working during the day, so I have to only go at night. But yeah, you know, I try to get to TIFF every year, and I try to see as many films as I can. And I just kind of let go and see what comes my way, you know. And sometimes you're like, that was amazing, and sometimes you're like, I don't know what I just saw, but but both are interesting experiences.
But you are part of the festival officially, so has it changed for you compared to other years you've been here?
Well, yeah, now I have a little card around my neck, which I'm proud of, but still just a guest pass. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone says that, but this is like a total dream of mine because I've been coming to the festival since I was a kid, growing up in Toronto, and I've always when I was like 12 years old, I was like, I want to have a film at Toronto Film Festival, and I had submitted films before, so you know, it feels like a big deal for me, but it's also a bit surreal because it also just feels like TIFF.
And 2024 is your year, so you have a short film, and it's called Are You Scared to Be Yourself Because You Think That You Might Fail?
Yes,
that's the title.
Yes.
Are you scared to be yourself because you think that you might fail? You wrote this, you directed this. It's a short, about 20 minutes, shy of 20 minutes.
Yeah, 17.
First of all, the title.
Yes.
This title, there has to be a story behind this title. What is it?
Well, you know, it actually came from a journal entry that I wrote a long time ago, and it was just that. It was just one page that said that, and I don't even remember writing it, but it is something that I've come back to a lot, and we were going to name it something like really short, and I was like, to my producing partner, Emily Harris, I was like, hear me out. what do you think about a title that's longer than the film? And we both kind of thought that it touched on the nebulous kind of quality that the film is exploring, of like that like we try so hard to find who we are, and it takes so long, and it never stops. So the idea that you could like fail at being yourself is kind of funny, but that's, I feel like, what anxiety is, right? Is that like when we're not living by our values or living up to our expectations of ourselves, that we feel like we're failing. But really, the reality is you are yourself in every moment, whether or not you're showing up the way you want to. So it's not really something you can fail at. But I think that idea of anxiety being like failing at just becoming is was interesting to me.
So essentially, what's the story that you're telling in your film?
Like in a physical realm, it's really about a person who is recovering from top surgery. So the film starts with them just leaving surgery and getting picked up by their mom and their partner, and they're back in their childhood home recovering, and with their mom and their partner taking care of them. And I really wanted to explore, I guess, on the more like metaphorical level of like when you're so excited for an experience. I think like as a trans person, it's really privileged to get gender affirming care, and you're waiting for your name to get called, and you're, you know, waiting for your surgeon, and you're reading everything about it, and it actually is really fucked up because then you get cut open. So it's like, who is excited to get cut open? It changes, right? Like, I think the experience of wanting something and then getting it when it's so, it's such an intense bodily experience. It's really about the character kind of coming down from the excitement of the idea of it and dealing with the reality of like, it takes a long time to heal.
What I found really interesting was something that I'd never thought of before, but one of our senses, smell, because some of the characters keep referring to that.
Yes.
And I'd never thought of that before.
Yeah.
Okay, so this story, is it autobiographical? Is it fictional? Is it, you know, based from friends' stories?
It's like, I'd say like most of my work is like creative nonfiction, so it was based on my experience of getting top surgery in May of 2022.
For yourself?
Yeah, for myself. And I think when I got it, I was like really confused because it's a lot more, you know, this is something in the past 5 years that is like now people understand what top surgery refers to versus like a double mastectomy, just in terms of like trans visibility and terminology is so much more commonplace. But there's still a pretty limited amount of like conversations about what the reality of these things are. Like, I found like most of my anxieties went to Reddit forums, you know, like not surgeon websites. And yeah, I struggled in the aftermath. And at the time I was having a more complicated relationship with my mom, but now we're, you know, very close, and we always have been close. But I think that transitioning in front of people is very vulnerable, and it feels really hard to be witnessed when you're not ready yet. You're still like, even though you've had the surgery, it feels like it's going to be a long road, like, you know.
When you were going through that experience for yourself, did you think, you know, there's something in here, I'm going to use this at some point for my art?
I think in the first week, which is what the film really chronicles, I did not think about that. It all felt like this super nebulous, like murky kind of time where like days bled into night and you're not really pretty immobile. So
because you're recovering.
You're recovering, yeah. Exactly. And it's something you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to watch TV, read books and stuff. But it's quite anxiety inducing to not be able to do things for yourself and to be reliant on other people. And I think it was kind of more like later in the month as I was recovering, I started to realize like how my dependence on these two relationships of like my chosen like queer partner and family, and then like my mom, like how uncomfortable it was. Like I wanted help, but I didn't want to be seen as like helpless. And yeah, I guess it's somewhere like later when I was kind of reflecting on the really anxious time that I'd had, because you know there's fictional events in the film like that kind of.
There's a scene outside when the character is sitting outside and hearing all the neighborhood kids and the noises and all that sort of stuff. That scene to me was so, for me, it was profound because, you know, here's this person just sort of like, you know, outside breathing fresh air and just like, I mean, to me, this is how I read that scene and just was like kind of like just listening and I'm hearing these, you know, these kids just like say whatever and it's like, it was interesting. It was really interesting. Is this short a proof of? Is it part of a bigger project?
It actually isn't. It's I just was like, I want to make something, and I think
it's a standalone.
It's a standalone. Okay. Yeah, I think it speaks to like films I want to make in the future about kind of like, you know, I really want to make a film with a trans person that's not just them in queer community, which is can be like a echo chamber in a great way where you feel supported and seen, but like what's it like to be put back in familial spaces that feel uncomfortable.
You're just a person who happens to be.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, that having that character of the mom and her, you know, she doesn't mean to like fuck up their pronouns and stuff. Like she's just learning. It's just a new thing for her. And having them have to trust her at the end, and take them outside. Like I thought that for me, it was kind of like that release of control, where, and also just, like go outside. Like what is it like internet speak is like go touch grass. Like when people are like way too in something, like when there's like, why are you dissecting this to hell? Like go outside and like remember that we're like small in like this big environment. And I think that can be really humbling in the best way.
So you are a screenwriter, you're a director, a filmmaker. You went to school for filmmaking. When was there a flashpoint? Was there a moment, maybe even a film that inspired you where you said, this is what I want to do. I'm going to be a filmmaker. Was there anything like that, a flashpoint for you?
Yeah, it's like kind of funny to think of now, but it kind of makes sense too. I probably recognized something early on, but when I saw Juno when I was like, I think 12 or 13, I went to the theater with my dad, and we went to, I'm not sure if this theater exists anymore, but I used to call it the adult movie theater which now sounds like pornographic, but really what it was that my parents would take me to a theater in Yorkville that like always, like I remember seeing The Hours when I was like 9 years old, like with Nicole and I was like, this is way too advanced for me. But then just like serious films we would go see there, and my dad took me to see Juno, and I was like, holy shit, like I want to make something like that, like something that felt like very familiar and nothing like you'd ever seen before, and also just like a distinct voice, and like mining more complicated relationships and dynamics. I thought that it was just so unique to me.
So that's what did it for you?
Yeah, weirdly, I was like, I'm totally obsessed with that movie.
So Rainbow Country's a gay show. I'm gay. Shocker, I know, shocker, I know. But for me, I am androgynous. I'm a mix of male, female energy. You use they, them pronouns. For yourself, are you gender non-binary? Are you trans? Where do you fit on that?
I identify as non-binary, but I mean, I started testosterone like 7 months ago, which was like a very big decision for me. Top surgery was no question. I was like, I can't wait to get rid of these things. But I was like, I don't know. It's, for me, gender has been a very big like discovery process, and I kind of.
When did that start for you then? When did you start, questioning things about yourself?
Well, I came out as a lesbian in college. At NYU, there's like a saying that's "gay by May," and I was actually late to that because I came out in second year. But it's like it makes sense and it's true, and so that was like comfortable for me for a long time. And things started, I felt really repressed as a kid because I think I always knew I was gay. And, it's not a very unique story, but just that feeling of like, I don't know I cannot picture myself as an adult. Like, I can't picture what I'm going to look like or do or anything because I just didn't see anyone who looked like me or wanted what I wanted. If I did see them, it didn't feel attainable to me. But being trans was much more of a, I wouldn't say like a surprise, but I think it was a much deeper impulse that like kind of started to emerge as I started to see people close to me finding their identities. And I was like, wait, we can do that? Or like, I can do that too? Like, it really, I think just like there's such a childhood kind of thing around being allowed to do something, and that like has stayed with me far too long, where I'm like, whose permission do I need to be yourself, So
in regards to your journey, how far along are you in your journey?
I really don't know. I mean, I guess I came out as non-binary first year of COVID, very classic, we're all kind of looking at the internet and being like, looking at ourselves and seeing what are we.
And then you started testosterone, you said,
last
like 7 months?
February. Okay. Yeah. So it's been, it's, and I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up identifying as he, him, but it's always just like, for identification has felt more like pronouns has always felt like more for other people, because I kind of feel probably a bit more like you, where it's like I don't embody the like masculine profile and I don't embody the feminine profile. I can't call myself like a personality with legs. Okay. Yeah. So really it's just like I'm starting to look how I want to look, and however people perceive me. I'm trying not to put too much stock in. Yeah. That's what feels good to me.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Here's my last question for you. When audiences see, whether they see this particular short of yours or something in the future, when people see one of your films, what do you hope your audiences come away with? What would you like them to take away from your work?
I would like them to learn and feel, I guess, is that all human experiences are collaborative, including transition. So, I think that seeing that like there's no good and bad in people, but really just people trying to do their best or their worst, but whatever it is that it's just I want like to really point to the nuance and three-dimensionality of people. I guess that kind of thing.
Well said. Beck Pico, thank you for your time. Well said, well done, well filmed.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Thanks for being on the show.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Are you okay? I'm like really nervous. Are you nervous?
No. You smell crazy. Oh my god. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah, really weird. Oh, it's so weird. I had no idea what I was gonna look like. What do you think I was gonna look like? Just like no boobs.
You'll be back tomorrow? I wanna go home. Just for like a few days.
A few days? I can't do nothing with my T-Rex arms.
You know who really wants to help? Your mom wants to help.
For even more on this award-winning filmmaker, simply visit beckpico.com.
Bill 7, to ban discrimination in employment, government services, and housing, based on a person's sexual orientation, was up for a vote at Queen's Park. Most NDP and Liberal MPPs supported the bill, but without some progressive Conservative legislators backing, a divisive split could rack the province. 4 PCs decided to break party ranks to vote with their conscience and support Bill 7. Cabinet Minister and MPP Dennis Timbrell did it to show solidarity for his beloved brother, the well-known drag queen Rusty Ryan. And for me, a gay politician who was not yet out, I had to take a stand. We were known as the Gang of Four. I'm former Cabinet Minister and MPP Phil Gillies. The date, December 2nd, 1986, when LGBT rights came to Ontario.
The phone rings. I got a message from the mayor. He's going to call me back the next day. I get the call, and he said, if you'd accept, we'd like to honor you with the key to the city. There was an event later that year in May. Just a key, right? Like, key to what? A decent job, a good singing career. It's really a metaphor, but it's history. So a reporter wants to talk to me and says, so it's a key, right? Like, what's the big deal? I said, well, not everybody gets the key. So I looked it up, and I guess it is kind of a big deal.
The date, May 17th, 2018, when trans activist Susan Gapka made history by becoming the first trans woman to be presented with the key to the city of Toronto. By the way, past recipients include Rush and the Raptors. And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, simply head over to marktara.ca, brand new URL, marktara.ca, and hit the archives banner. To keep up to date with the show, check out my socials at Mark Tara. The podcast is available on all major platforms. And finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, we are living in days of making dreams come true, so believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you.
Hi, I'm Joey Lamar, best-selling author of Mambo Lips and Salsa Hips, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.